Hi Copites, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to talk about Curtis Jones. So as you know, there's been quite a lot of rumours to do with Curtis Jones this summer possibly leaving because he's a bit part player. He's now 25, he wants to start playing first team football, he doesn't know where he fits in. Obviously we've got Florian Wirtz, we've got Dominic Szoboszlai that play at the number 10. For me that would be Curtis Jones' best position. That's one of the reasons why, for me, Harvey Elliott was loaned out and probably will be sold this summer. Paul Joyce has put an article out. What we're going to do is, I've analysed it and I'm going to read it out what Paul Joyce has said. So as you know, Paul Joyce is the nearest person to Michael Edwards and probably now Richard Hughes. So let's take a look. So, there's been a lot of chat, a lot of speculation, but today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to take you through exactly what Paul Joyce wrote in the Times this morning, word for word, where it matters, so you can hear it straight from one of the most respected journalists in the game. No spin, no guesswork, just the facts as Paul Joyce laid them out. So grab a brew, sit back and let's get into it. Curtis Jones' desire to be the main man leaves midfielder at a crossroads. And right from the opening paragraph, he sets the scene perfectly. Jones has been at Liverpool since he was 9 years old. He came to the club. He became, the club's youngest ever captain in an FA Cup game against Shrewsbury back in 2020 at just 19 years old. Now at 25, he's approaching a big decision. Joyce points out that Jones will soon be entering the final year of his current contract, and at his age, it's completely understandable that he might sit down in the summer and ask himself, is my future still at my boyhood club? Joyce drops some serious numbers that show exactly how good Jones has been this season. He writes that Jones is second only to Rodri among midfielders for passes per 90 minutes in the Premier League this season. He's also second behind Moses Caicedo for passing accuracy and second to Ryan Cherki for the number of carries among players who have played at least 1,000 minutes in their club's engine room. Let that sink in for a second. If those stats belonged to a player Liverpool were trying to sign, the clamour would be off the scale. YouTube show reels would be everywhere. But this player is already at Liverpool, and yet his future is being questioned. Jones is in line to make his 150th Premier League appearance for Liverpool this Sunday against Manchester United. But here's the key point Joyce makes. His 148th and 149th appearances came as an emergency right back. And according to Joyce, he performed expertly in both matches, inverting into midfield when needed, cherishing the ball and offering resistance to the opposition's press. There was one moment against Crystal Palace where he tried an impossible pass across his own penalty area and had to be bailed out by Freddie Woodman, but Joyce calls that an isolated slip. Still, the bigger picture is clear. Jones has only started twice in midfield in Liverpool's last 12 league games. This is where the crossroads really starts to appear. Joyce explains the competition in Arne Slot's midfield. With Florian Wirtz being used as a number 10, that leaves two central midfield spots being fought out by Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones. Joyce writes that Jones' preference would be to stay at Liverpool if he could be the main man. He had started regularly going into the new year, only to then find himself the one missing out again. Slot has stressed that Jones has played more first team minutes this season than in any previous campaign for Liverpool. But Joyce adds he does not seem to fully trust him. How likely is it that he will start in his preferred position next term? That's the question hanging over Curtis Jones right now. Joyce reveals that Jones has attracted real interest. In January, Tottenham Hotspurs considered him, but ultimately signed Conor Gallagher for 35 million from Atletico Madrid instead. Inter Milan were also keen on the England international. There was talk of a loan deal with a view to a permanent transfer. Joyce is clear though, Jones did not push for either move. Liverpool were always against the idea of a loan, but Spurs' interest never reached the point of a firm bid. Now, as we sit here on the 28th of April, Joyce says there is talk of Aston Villa monitoring him and that Inter could yet return. At that point, Liverpool would have to decide whether it is worth selling him. One of the most powerful parts of the article is when Joyce talks about Jones's professionalism. He writes that it is always spoken of highly. He writes that it is always spoken of highly by club officials. That doesn't make sense. It should say he writes that he is always spoken of highly by club officials. Jones benefited hugely as a youngster from rubbing shoulders with players like James Milner, Jordan Henderson and Adam Lallana. And then Joyce drops this brilliant quote from Jurgen Klopp, said recently about Milner's influence on Jones. He educated Curtis Jones. Curtis was a classic super talent. Give me the ball, I'll do something. He didn't pass the ball a lot in the youth teams because he knew he could do it better than the others. Then you arrive in the first team and you have to consider all these different things, and James made sure he saw that. Not in a harsh way. He didn't want to change his personality, he just wanted to shape it. Joyce adds the credit goes to Jones, as he had to absorb those lessons. Since Trent Alexander-Arnold left, Jones is now the only native Liverpudlian in Liverpool's senior squad. Joyce also links Jones' situation to that of Alexis McAllister. Gravenberch has already signed a new deal. Talks with Szoboszlai are ongoing, but last week McAllister's camp said no negotiations were taking place. Joyce writes that while the two players' situations are linked to some extent, Jones could be forgiven for thinking the time has come to do what is best for him, rather than wait to see what happens with someone else. And then comes the line that sums it all up: stay or go. The only certainty today is that it is not an easy choice for someone who first joins Liverpool aged 9. There you go, guys. Like I say, I don't like to read you the whole article, so what I've done is analyse the article. It's behind a paywall, so unless you actually pay for it, you can't get it. but there is ways around it. That's all I'll say, because you can't say too much on YouTube in case it gets picked up. But there is ways around it. I'm sure if you ask in the comment section, somebody will tell you how to do it. Let me know what you think though. Do you think Curtis Jones should stay at Liverpool? Do you like Curtis Jones? Is he only a backup player for you? That's it for this video. Take it easy.